Episode 84 of the 4Ps, which will live on LinkedIn, as a podcast available on Spotify and other services, and for this week only as a snippet on Facebook. I've avoided posting highly opinionated topics on Facebook because I know how the algorithm works, and I am well aware that only people who are like-minded and share my beliefs are likely to see it. We call it the Facebook filter bubble, but it's real and has made fact sharing and truth sifting even harder. But here in the heat of the summer, on the off chance that people who disagree with me might actually see this, here we are.
Yeah.
If the overtly, undeniably racist and insulting things that Trump has said about legal and illegal immigrants, Americans, American cities, American congressmen and women, if that hasn't turned you off, that makes you a racist asshole. If the blatant selfishness and disregard for the struggles of the middle class and the poor, if that hasn't turned you off, that makes you an insensitive asshole. If ignoring and exacerbating the permanent damage to the earth hasn't bothered you, that makes you a selfish asshole. If supporting the gun industry, the Russian government and election interference, or putting kids in prison camps is something that you can look past, that makes you a fascist asshole. If making this a less safe country for women's reproductive health or the LGBTQ community, if that's something that you're down with, that makes you a bigoted asshole. And if you're okay with being an asshole, then I'm sure you don't mind that Trump this week has claimed, without evidence, to an audience that included 9/11 first responders at the White House on Monday, that, quote, I was down there at Ground Zero also, but I'm not considering myself a first responder, but I was down there. I spent a lot of time down there with you, quote. Then joking about how if the stage they're all standing on collapsed, at least it wouldn't be a big fall, and then repeatedly lying that he helped people at Ground Zero on 9/11. For anyone else, that would end their political career forever. As should bragging that the attacks meant you now had the tallest building in Manhattan, which was also a lie, by the way. I worked in Lower Manhattan on that day, and pretty much every day since. Not a day goes by when I don't look up at the new building or just the sky and think about the images of that day before my eyes. The victims, the survivors who later became victims, the responders and everyday people. And it's for them that I say this. If you know all of this and can get past all of this and still support this illegally elected criminal president, well, that makes you not just an asshole, but my enemy. And now for the 4Ps, even though that intro could have been all four in one. Here's something personal. Year 2 of the annual overnight campout is here. About 75 to 100 dads in our town and their kids camping out at the golf and pool club in our town. Not exactly camping, maybe more glamping, especially with bathrooms like 100 feet from our tents. But in the middle of the night, leaving our tent to go pee is not an option, which is why we are bringing adult and child-sized travel johns. That's right, we're talking about a real pee here for a second. Now, these are bags that contain a special gel that when mixed with a liquid turns into a solid, and it can be then discarded in any trash receptacle. It is great for road trips and concerts or sporting events, trips to the mall, or camping out. Travel johns are available on Amazon, and while this could have also been a practical pee for the week, I'm making it a personal pee because, well, I have too many pees to push out this week. Something else political. For the state of Kentucky. Your 2 senators are Mitch McConnell and Rand Paul. For every $1 you spend in taxes that goes to the federal government, you actually receive $2.18 back in federal aid. Yet, your senators are screaming about socialism and complain about how the government is not functioning. That makes you sound ridiculous. So wake up and vote them the fuck out. You really have to take a step back and pause at just how stupid these guys are and how so much of this is driven by Fox News and how dumb their viewers are. Here are 2 guys that just all they have to say is the word socialism, and the Fox viewers lose their shit despite the fact that Kentucky's the poorest state in the union. And Russia attacked us, and Mitch McConnell won't secure our elections. So something that may not sound very practical, but is the science of intelligent achievement. So let me explain. What if there were tools that you could use to create a realistic and actionable plan that gets you from goals to a desired outcome, all while limiting the amount of mental energy that you need to spend and the mental exhaustion that you feel? The average person enjoys only 2 hours of peak mental focus every day, along with an additional 5 hours of relatively high mental focus. So the first tip in intelligent achievement is selective focus. That means being careful and choosy about how you spend your energy, learning how to say no to certain things that are competing for your attention, being deliberate with maybe a burst of concentrated energy in the morning and then maybe another one in the afternoon. It also means being highly selective about the opinions to which you expose yourself. Okay? Another tip, creative ownership. That means freeing yourself up so that you're working toward your own goals and no one else's. The key is to produce and market your own content and have pride in that ownership. And then the final tip is practicing pragmatic growth, focusing on small, doable actions that would improve your overall condition. Being proactive also means relying on realistic plans and realizing that to-do lists might not actually be helping you. Making lists, even though I love them, rarely lead to the kind of direct action that moves you closer to goals. And it's important to understand why. Because to-do lists are made up of often unrelated or dissimilar tasks that you haven't grouped. And we have a tendency to do the easiest tasks first, not the most important. So don't prioritize easy tasks over hard tasks. Don't assume that an 8-hour workday is right, and avoid phone and email distractions when you are focused to not distract you. Last today, a professional P. I could talk about influencer marketing or changes in the media landscape or even the changing nature of digital video, and that too many of the digital and social and media platforms are creating too many video tools that brands just don't have the budget to support all of and then can't choose, and there's paralysis, and that's why they're not making money. Because I can talk about all those things, I'm actually talking about range, which is the subject of a new book by David Epstein about the importance of generalists in the workplace. The key summary here is that generalists can make connections between diverse fields that specialists may not be able to do. This makes them, me, us, more innovative and ultimately more impactful. As a generalist, I try to practice active open-mindedness. It's a willingness to question your own beliefs as well as that of others. Now, I admit it's hard for me, harder than me for most, to be open-minded because I'm usually right. But this is the opposite of confirmation bias, which we've talked about. Embracing range, experimentation, breadth of experience, it demands patience, open-mindedness, and also scientific curiosity. So if we can foster and exemplify these in our younger, less experienced employees, the chances that we will generate major innovations and contribute significantly to our companies, our clients, our partners, our colleagues, the economy, society, all increase.